So those are our sits of the week, our starts of the week, and it's time to talk games. Oof.
Fantasy Forecast.
If you think this episode's ending, you're wrong.
We need to work.
It's never ending.
It's only just begun.
we need to work a nap break into here. And I was
Into this one?
Just if we could just pause for about 10 minutes so I could take a power nap and get ready for the fantasy forecast.
I'm just glad you showed up today.
I almost did.
I had to text you on the way here to the studio, and I was like, 3 question marks. You know what that means? Where are you?
Yeah.
And then you walked in, and your hair was all rock star.
It's rock star hair?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It reminded me of, it's that or homeless person.
That's hair envy.
All right. There you go. Let's start it off. It's Thanksgiving Day games, which I adore, right? Every Thanksgiving, I have to navigate the television because my family, a few people watch football, most people don't. And so I have to kind of like navigate how to get the TV on in the background. Right. And then, if the meal time is anywhere in the vicinity, it's a very difficult situation.
The great thing about Thanksgiving football is that a lot of families don't have to do that. That's the one day where it's like, oh, that's just tradition. You put the games on. And
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to my parents' house.
Ah.
If it was at my house, it would be my rules, and we wouldn't even eat.
There you go.
No, we would eat.
Well, as you come together with family around football, let's be honest, tell them about the fantasy footballers. So your family needs the help. Trust me.
Eagles, they take on the Lions. The Lions always play on Thanksgiving. This is an interesting game. The Lions are favored, the Eagles are favored by a point. So fantasy-wise, what are we looking at in this matchup?
Well, first off, we got to figure out who the quarterback for the Eagles is. The news came out that Bradford was cleared, but we don't know if he's going to start. Sounds
because he has more than a concussion.
Right, and so we got to figure out what's going on up there. There's a John Fox situation brewing in Philadelphia. I don't appreciate this, Chip Kelly. Let's get it together. We need to know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about streaming one of those two quarterbacks, we do need to know. I don't think it makes a big difference. When I was statting my players out and considering who's starting, I don't think I really change anyone. There's nobody that I think goes definitely up or definitely down with the change between Bradford and is there anybody that you guys see where it's going to make a big effect on anybody?
Well, if I'm playing, let's say I'm desperate for a defense, and the Lions have been great recently. Yeah. It does make a little bit of a difference. If it's Sanchez, I'm confident there's going to be some interceptions. If it's Bradford, there probably will be. But
I would be confident that
but I was just saying that if it's Sanchez, that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 picks coming. And so let's break down these positions.
I do have one thing I want to mention right off the bat.
Okay.
And he is somebody that could have very easily be a start or stream of the week. And that is Brent Selleck. Brent Selleck is likely to be the only tight end of this game because Zach Ertz is in the concussion protocol. The concussion protocol is supposed to last 5 days.
Right.
So the odds of him playing on Thanksgiving are very, very low. And Brent Selleck had a good game a couple weeks ago. So Brent Selleck is somebody who, if you're at the bottom of the barrel, if you're staring down another Ebron start, I'd rather start Brent Selleck.
Absolutely. No, I like that start a lot. From the tight end, I mean, yeah, you've got Ebron on one side and Selleck on the other, and that's good. From the running backs, this is a crazy polar game when it comes to running back situations between these two teams. You have the Lions allow the most in the league by a wide margin of 2+ rushing touchdowns in a game. And on the other side, the Eagles have allowed no rushing touchdowns in 80% of their games. So
I don't expect them to give up a rushing touchdown in this one either to Joique Bell and company.
Yeah, that's
according to some metrics that we were looking at yesterday. Joique Bell has had what would be defined as a bust game every single game of the entire season.
That's so weird.
Yeah, right.
And Ryan Mathews, speaking of concussion protocol, Ryan Mathews is still in the protocol. I do not expect him to play, which is another huge opportunity for DeMarco Murray. Now, Murray, play calling, game flow, not sure what happened, but he did not seize the opportunity last week, and Sproles was able to rattle off a touchdown.
That's what I was going to ask you. Darren Sproles, do you start him, Jason?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, it depends on your.
Darren Sproles, Duke Johnson.
I kind of like Duke this week.
Yeah, Duke because McCown's back.
With McCown and against Baltimore. But I would absolutely be willing to start Darren Sproles. You saw last week he was involved, had almost 40 yards through the air, 20 on the ground, and he got a touchdown. You look at the fact that the Lions give up touchdowns to the running back position. That being said, these Lions are playing really good. So he would be a deeper flex option for me.
Okay. So would you start, just to throw some names out there, would you start Rashad Jennings or Darren Sproles?
Jennings, coming off a bye, being the starter.
Charles Sims or Darren Sproles?
Ooh. Man, probably Sims, but that's pretty close.
I think I would go Sproles there. I like Sims more as a player I want on my team.
All right, last one. Carlos Williams or Darren Sproles?
Darren Sproles.
Sproles.
Okay.
And a guy who could have easily been a sit of the week if everyone wasn't already sitting him is Jordan Mathews, who's been highly disappointing.
Terrible.
And I'm not sure what's going to happen as far as the coverage, but Darius Slay up in Detroit has been a monster the last 3 games.
Shutdown corner.
I believe he's allowed about 17 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say 1 catch or something.
In the last three weeks. So if he is on Mathews or whoever Darius Slay is on, there's going to be trouble for that wide receiver.
It's also another reason I like Selleck this week. So we're starting Calvin Johnson. I think Golden Tate is somebody that we kind of like. I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia, to be honest, with the defense and everything. That was such a weird game last week. But any other thoughts on this game before we move it on?
The last thought, are you still confident? Because I'm asking for a friend, not for me, not the guy who owns the Eagles defense. Are you still confident starting them as a defensive unit coming off of that horrific loss to Tampa Bay?
I am confident. Even after that horrific loss, I believe they're the 4th highest scoring defense in the league. The Lions aren't exactly an offense. They've been doing great on defense, but they're an offense that can do a pick six, every other game. So I'm not off of the Eagles. I would start them in this game.
I generally, when I see that type of thing happen, I wait a week to start the defense because I want to see what the trend looks like. You have defenses that are trending really positive now. Kansas City, Houston. You got defenses that are going the other direction. The Jets haven't been that good, that type of thing. So let's move on here to the other Thanksgiving Day game. We have 3 of them. This is the Panthers going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. In the game I'm looking forward to the most because I want to see Cam Newton and Tony Romo and this battle on Thanksgiving Day, the undefeated team. Cam Newton, since I believe week 5, is the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football. We looked this up yesterday. That is a start every week guy. You never sit him down. Baseline very high for Cam Newton. And, the truth is they're a team that runs the ball a ton. Jonathan Stewart's got, I believe, 6 straight weeks of 20-plus carries. 53% of their plays are running plays because Cam Newton is taking the read option. And
Tolbert gets involved, too. They run all the time.
Doesn't Tolbert seem like the perfect Thanksgiving Day running back?
Oh, he sure does. He is thankful for...
Yeah, he's thankful for a job. Mike Tolbert, Jonathan Stewart, Darren McFadden. We had this discussion earlier in the week. We kind of liked McFadden a little bit more rest of season than Jonathan Stewart. What about this game specifically?
Oof, man. Darren McFadden is just his floor is so great. I mean, the offense. I expect the Cowboys' offense to be to continue rolling. I know Carolina has a great defense, but with Romo back, and this is actually as a counterpoint. Let me get your opinion on this. Tony Romo hasn't played football in weeks, right? He comes in, he plays Sunday, so he's getting hit. You've got to deal with that NFL soreness. He's on a very short rest and has had no time really to acclimate to the game. Do you think that can affect Tony Romo's performance at all?
I do. I think it can affect play calling. Now, I'm not saying you bench Romo, but one, it's a bad matchup, right? You've got him going up against a great defense in a short week. So I think it can affect him, but I'm not going to go crazy on that. To answer Andy's question, I like Darren McFadden better in this game. Both defenses are good. It's not like the Panthers have a good defense and Jonathan Stewart's going to be able to run all over the Cowboys. both running backs are going to come up against tough defenses. I think that Darren McFadden, he doesn't get split. Stewart does give up. He cedes more carries to Tolbert and Cam than DMC does to Turbin.
That's a tough argument for me because Stewart's number 2 in the league in carries. So.
Yeah, to me, it's the catches. The catches sets Darren McFadden.
You guys want to make a bet? Stewart versus McFadden? Because I'd take Stewart in this game.
That's a fun one to me on Thanksgiving. You got it,
you just
buddy.
said McFadden, so.
Waterbed.
Now we got something else to pay attention to on Thanksgiving. So Stewart versus McFadden. To answer your Romo question that you were posing, I'm not worried about it. I agree that it could be a problem, but he also gets the benefit of now being acclimated to a game. I wanted to wait for Romo to have a game back before I felt confident in him. Now that he's got a second game at home, I'm okay with it. You're starting Des Bryant. What about Devin Funchess? Would you flex Devin Funchess this week?
If you're desperate, maybe as a wide receiver 3 or a flex, but that's the highest consideration I can give him.
Okay,
yeah.
That's very fair. Very fair. I'm trying to see exactly where we have him ranked. At the best, one of us has him at 30 this week, 46 on the worst. He's our 40th by consensus. So he's outside that top 3. So deeper leagues where you got 3 wide receivers and a flex, maybe those are leagues you're thinking about Devin Funchess. So Witten was a sit of the week for me. Do you guys agree with that take, or are you okay with Witten?
I would prefer to sit him. Tight end is that tricky position.
It is.
I don't know if you have a better option off of the waiver wire. But I agree that you need to temper your expectations. The Panthers are a tremendous defense against the tight end.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about in this matchup?
Nope.
Okay, let's move it on. Bears taking on the Packers. Packers heavily favored. The Bears have been in a lot of games lately, either winning them or a tight one this past week and couldn't get the 2-point conversion. This game, it's going to be cold. There might be a little bit of rain. What are we seeing here?
I'm calling it right now. This is the game that Eddie Lacy starts rolling. The Chicago Bears, Eddie Lacy has feasted on them in the past. I think it continues, especially when you have a factor of the weather, which I'm not going to buy completely into it, but it's colder. And I like Lacy, who just had 100 yards on a good defense, good running defense, gets to come into a division game. The Packers are desperate to stay in the race for a bye week into the playoffs. I think that Lacy is going to run free like a man possessed by the need for turkey. So I love Eddie Lacy this week.
Well, I got a little hungry when you said he was going to get on a roll.
Yeah, we actually, all 3 of us have Eddie Lacy this week as an RB1. You do have him the highest, Mike, at 8, but Andy and I have him at 10 and 11. So I completely agree with the take. I think Eddie Lacy, in a game that's going to have probably some light rain, you hand the ball off, and I like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me put perspective into that Lacy start, because I don't feel great having to start Eddie Lacy after one good game, but I got Eddie Lacy ahead of Mark Ingram this week.
Ooh.
And Mark Ingram's taking on the Texans and the Texans defense in Houston, but I like Lacy, like Mike just brought up.
Yep. In the Langford Forte situation, we've already kind of discussed that. If you have to start one, I'm going to start Forte. And so let's move to the wide receivers of Alshon Jeffery. Is this guy going to play?
Nope.
Oh,
I think he will.
You do?
I
That's
do.
a tough one. We'll not be able to give you another piece of news because this game's tomorrow.
So if he doesn't play, are we on Marquise Wilson alert again?
Absolutely. If he doesn't play, it doesn't look like Royal's going to play, and then they've got to throw it to someone. And Marquise Wilson is a great option. We've seen him have fine games in every game that those 2 guys are out. So this is a higher scoring Vegas game. So even if the Packers are winning by a lot, you've got to have Jay Cutler throwing the ball. He's got to throw to somebody. So I do like him. But I expect Alshon to play. That's just based on, I think the reason they sat him this last week against the Broncos was because the short week coming up, give him a little extra rest.
All right, the Bills go to Kansas City to take on the Red Hot Chiefs. And that Chiefs...
The Red Hot... I thought you were going to make a Red Hot Chili Peppers joke.
Oh, no. I wasn't.
Red Hot Chiefy Peppers?
No, I wasn't going to go there because it would have sounded like that.
Yep.
All right, the Bills taking on the Chiefs. Let me give you this stat nugget, all right? Chiefs average the most rushing touchdowns per game of any team in football. Char West, if he doesn't play, Spencer Ware, Do you roll him out there because you got the both sides of this, right? The Chiefs average the most rushing touchdowns, but the Bills have played very good on defense. The Bills are right now 10th against the run. So where's the balance?
Yeah, well, the balance, I guess, is it's a wide gap of what you could do. I believe that Ware will have a fine game against the Bills if Char West doesn't play because of what you said. The Chiefs have been more and more dedicated to the run because their defense has been playing better, and they've been a better team playing that way as opposed to the beginning of the year where they were really trying to force the issue to Jeremy Maclin, who was almost my sit of the week. They were trying to force a passing game that wasn't what the team was built for. Even after losing Jamal Charles, they really went run game. I have Spencer Ware as my 14th running back this week. I've got him statted as the RB1 for Kansas City with Charcandrick West out, and I think I gave him a touchdown. And so that if you get a touchdown, you had a good week almost always. So if he gets the volume and gets a touchdown, which the Bills give up, then I'm fine starting him.
There's no Nile Davis concern.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't have any. Do you think I should have Nile Davis concern, Andy?
Not really.
The way that the Chiefs have treated Nile Davis this year, of demoting him before he needed to be demoted.
Here's when you would have had Nile Davis concern. If Spencer Ware came in and relieved Char West and didn't do anything.
Right.
But he came in and he ran 11 for 96 and 2 touchdowns. I think he gets the majority of the work.
On the worst running defense in the league.
Correct. I'm not going to overemphasize the matchup. You have two balances there. You're still in Kansas City. You've got a team that I'm okay with Ware. I would put him in that 2, the RB2 category this week. So, yeah.
I'm better with him as a 2.
That's and so and that, you know, what else happens here is you have a team with Buffalo who struggled a little bit on offense going against the best defense in the league right now in the trends at home at Arrowhead. And so short fields are in the cards potentially for Kansas City. They might not have to do a whole lot through the air. I don't think weather's going to be an issue in this game. We talked about Clay as a sit of the week. Kelsey, you're starting, obviously. Sammy Watkins would be the guy I want to talk about.
I say, are you starting anybody from the Bills not named LeSean McCoy? Anyone from the Bills?
I would consider a flex play of Sammy Watkins based on the feedback this week of the fact that they want to get him more involved. They need to force the ball to him a little bit more. He is the kind of guy that's going to beat the coverage. It's just a matter of targets. So I'd play Watkins over Funchess.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. But given how Tyrod Taylor looked at the end of that game coming off of a short week, I just don't trust him to be able to really air it out to Watkins against a good defense. So I would rather sit Watkins. But
Phillip Rivers couldn't do it last week.
If Taylor looks like he did at the end of the game last week, he's going to get knocked out of the game. There's no way he can finish a full game. And you're going to get some delicious E.J. Manuel turnovers. Start your Chiefs, everybody.
Apple turnovers?
Excuse me, I've got.
You said delicious turnovers. Yeah? What do you expect me to do? Assume you're talking about the NFL?
That's silly, Mike.
That is ridiculous.
Shame on you.
We're in the middle of an hour-long episode so far. I'm a hungry person.